Is the Tucson housing market crashing? Are buyers finally getting the upper hand? Are sellers still in control? Or are we all just a little confused because the headlines are again being dramatic? I pulled the actual April 2026 numbers straight from MLSSAZ, and let me tell you, the story is not as simple or as good market or bad market. It's more like this. Prices are stable, buyers are pickier, fewer sellers are listing, and some sellers are learning a very expensive lesson. So stay with me because I'm going to show you what's really happening with prices, inventory, days on market, price drops, and where buyers actually have leverage right now. And sellers, do not skip the price drop section. That one matters. Let's get into it. Here's the conversation I'm having constantly right now. A buyer or seller comes to me and says, Michelle, I have no idea what to believe. And honestly, I get it. They've read one headline that says the market is crashing. Another one says prices are still going up. Their neighbor says, oh, I'd wait. Their uncle says, buy now. Someone on Facebook is suddenly a real estate economist because they sold a house in 2021 and got 14 offers by breakfast. And now everyone is confused. And listen, we all know that neighbor. You know the one. They sold a house 3 years ago, and now they're out here giving TED Talks in the driveway. But here's the thing. National headlines do not tell you what is happening in Tucson. They do not tell you what's happening in Oro Valley. They do not tell you what's happening in Marana. And they definitely do not tell you what's happening in your exact neighborhood, your exact price point, or with your exact type of home. Real estate is local, really local. So today, we're putting the headlines aside and looking at the actual April 2026 data for Tucson single-family homes. Not opinions, not vibes, not your neighbor's hot take. Actual numbers from our actual MLS for our actual market. Real quick, before we dive in, if you're new here, I'm Michelle Ripley with Ripley's Real Estate Group here in Tucson, Arizona. I do these market updates every month because national headlines do not tell the whole story of what's happening right here in Tucson, Oro Valley, Marana, and our surrounding areas. So hit subscribe, tap the bell, and stick around because this is the kind of local data that can actually help you make a better real estate decision. Okay, let's talk Tucson. Okay, let's start with the number everybody wants to know first. What are homes actually selling for? In April 2026, the median sales price for a single-family home in Tucson was $375,000. That's down 2.6% from a year ago. Now, before anyone starts panic texting me, let's put that into perspective, because this is where the story really gets interesting. In 2024, the median sales price in Tucson was $375,030. In 2025, it was $373,500. And now, in 2026, it's $375,000. So basically, for the last 3 years, Tucson prices have been hanging out in the same neighborhood. And yes, pun fully intended. That is not a crash. That is not runaway appreciation. That is a market that has found a level and is holding pretty steady. And I'll be honest, stability does not make for a sexy headline. Nobody is clicking on Tucson market behaves reasonably for third year in a row. But for homeowners and buyers, stability is actually really important. It means if you bought a home in Tucson over the last few years, you have not lost your equity. That's a big deal. It means if you're buying today, you're not trying to catch a falling knife. And it means the market is not falling apart. It's just acting more normal. Now, let's zoom out even further. Back in 2016, the median sales price in Tucson was $183,500. Today, it's $375,000. That is more than double in 10 years. So even in what people are calling a slower market, Tucson real estate has still been a powerful long-term investment. Now, here's another little twist. The average sales price this April was $484,494. And that is actually up 0.4% from last year. So while the median price softened slightly, the average price ticked up. That tells us the higher end of the market is holding a little stronger than the middle. And wait until we get to the price range breakdown, because that's where things really get interesting. Okay, prices are stable, but homes, are they actually selling? Or are they just sitting there in the Tucson sun, getting a tan and questioning their life choices? Good news, homes are selling. In April 2026, 722 single family homes sold in Tucson. So that is basically flat compared to last April, down less than 1%. So the volume of sales has not fallen off a cliff. Buyers are still out there. Contracts are still being written. The market is moving. But now let's talk about speed. The median days on market in April was 26 days. Here's the context. In 2023, it was 16 days. In 2024, it was 17 days. In 2025, it was 24 days. And now we're at 26 days. So, yes, homes are taking a little longer than they did during the hotter market. But 26 days is still under a month. A well-priced, well-prepared home in Tucson can still go under contract in less than 30 days. That is not a slow market. That is a market where strategy matters. And one of my favorite numbers to watch is new pendings. A pending means a buyer made an offer, the seller accepted it, and we have an actual agreement. In April, Tucson had 734 new pendings, which is actually up 1% from last year. So while the headlines are out there acting like everyone has crawled under a rock, buyers are quietly making moves. I love that for us. And year to date, through early May, Tucson has had 2,535 sales, totaling over $1.2 billion in volume. 1.2. So no, Tucson real estate is not asleep. She is very much awake. Maybe she's had coffee. Maybe two. Now, let's talk inventory, because this is where the market really starts to tell on itself. As of this report, there are 2,161 active single-family listings here in Tucson. Based on the current pace of sales, that gives us 2.99 months supply. So basically 3 months. Here's your quick cheat sheet. 6 months of supply is considered balanced. Under 6 months tends to favor sellers. Under 3 months is considered more of a strong seller's market. So at 2.99 months, Tucson is sitting right on the edge of seller market territory. But, and this is a very important but, that does not mean every seller can throw a sign in the yard, pick a dream price, and expect buyers to line up around the block. Kind of like, remember Krispy Kreme donuts around the block? Anyway, that market is gone. The homes benefiting most from this level of inventory are the homes that are move-in ready, updated, clean, well-maintained, with little to no deferred maintenance, and presented beautifully, whether that means professionally staged, lightly staged when vacant, or marketed in a way that helps buyers actually see the lifestyle and value. This is exactly why our listing launch plan focuses so heavily on preparation, presentation, photography, marketing, and pricing strategy. Because in this market, those things are not extras. They are the strategy. If your home needs work, has deferred maintenance, or is priced like the fully updated home down the street, you are in a very different market than the seller with the turnkey, show-ready home. Same city, totally different experience. Now let's break this down by price range, because this is where it gets useful. In the $300,000 to $399,000 range, there are 722 active listings and 241 sold last month. That gives us about 3 months of supply, which is right at the market average. This is one of the most active price points in Tucson. Lots of buyers, lots of sellers, lots of competition. In the $400,000 to $499,000 range, there is 2.9 months of supply. So that range is still tight and still moving well. Once you get above $600,000, inventory starts to stretch a bit. The $600,000 to $699,000 range has 4.2 months of supply. The $1 million to $1.19 million range is getting close to 6 months. And the $1.4 million and up range is sitting around 5 months of supply. So luxury buyers have a little more room to breathe, negotiate, and be selective. Now, on the low end, under $200,000, there are only 15 active listings in all of Tucson. 15. That's it. So if you're shopping under $200,000, you do not have the luxury of casually thinking about it for a week. You need to be pre-approved, clear on your must-haves, and ready to move when the right home hits, because that price point is tight, very tight. One more number that matters. New listings coming to market in April were 955, which is down 16.4% from a year ago. Less supply means steady demand equals price stability. And that is exactly what we're seeing. So, sellers, I want you to lean in for this part. And I'm saying this with love. Pricing high just to see what happens is not a strategy, it is an expensive experiment. As of this report, 47% of active listings in Tucson have had at least one price reduction. 47%. That means nearly half of the homes currently on the market have already had to reduce their price because the original list price did not work. The average price drop is 7%. Let's put that into actual dollars. On a $375,000 home, that's more than $26,000. On a $500,000 home, that's $35,000. That is not pocket change. That is real money, real. And here's the part that really gets my attention and should get yours. The median time before a listing gets its first price drop is just 17 days. 17 days. So sellers are launching, waiting barely 2.5 weeks, and then having to reduce because buyers are not responding. That is a painful cycle. And I'm seeing it happen over and over and over again. Now, after that price drop, those listings go pending after a median of 36 more days. So do the math. You list too high, you wait 17 days, you reduce, then you wait another 36 days. Now you are over 50 days on market. And once a home has been sitting, buyers notice, they start asking, why is this still available? What's wrong with it? How much room do they have? And whether we like it or not, that stigma is real. Now, compare that to homes priced correctly from day one. It's a prettier story. Those are going under contract in about 25 days. That is the difference between a smoother, more confident sale and a stressful, drawn out one. And on closed sales from April 1st through early May, sellers were closing at an average of 7.8% below their original list price and a median of 6.3% below. So if you're thinking, I'll just list high and see what happens, the market is telling us very clearly you may end up at the right price anyway. It will just take longer to get there and possibly leave money on the table, not to mention all your holding costs. Price it right, price it smart, price it from day one. That is the move. Last data section, and buyers, this one's for you. Let's talk about where demand is strongest and where you might actually have some leverage. Looking at buyer demand over the last 90 days, the $300,000 to $399,000 range had the most sales, with 670 homes sold. But that is down 9.6% from last year. The $200,000 to $299,000 range had 370 sales, and that is also down 3.9% year over year. So those mid-range price points, they've softened a little bit. That does not mean buyers are in total control. Let's not get carried away. But it does mean buyers in those ranges may have a little more breathing room than they had a year ago. Now, on the flip side, the under $200,000 range sales jumped 57.7%. And that makes sense because there's almost nothing available there. When something decent hits the market at that price, buyers move fast. Now, here's where it gets a little surprising. The $700,000 to $799,000 range was up 7.1% in sales, and the $800,000 to $999,000 range was up 10.8%. So yes, certain parts of the upper end market have actually gotten more competitive. Go figure. Now let's look at days on market by price range. The fastest moving homes right now are in the $700,000 to $799,000 range, and with a median of just 15 days on market. The $500,000 to $599,000 range is moving in about 22 days. The slowest, the $200,000 to $299,000 range, and the $300,000 to $399,000 range are both sitting at about 34 days median. So, ironically, some of the most popular price points are not the fast-moving ones. That's where buyers have an opening, maybe. If you see a home in that mid-range that has been sitting for 30, 40, or 50 days, especially with no price reduction yet, that may be your window. That seller is watching the calendar. They may be getting motivated. And that's when a smart, data backed offer can make a lot of sense. Not a silly offer, not a let's offend everyone and see what happens offer, a smart offer. Now, let me give you a real life example because this is where the data starts to matter. I recently sat down with a seller here in Tucson who had a great home and, like most sellers, had a number in mind that felt right emotionally. And I completely understand that. Your home is not just square footage and countertops, it is where life happened. It's where holidays happened. It's where kids grew up. It's where memories were made. I get that. So pricing can feel personal. But when we sat down and looked at what was actually selling, what was sitting, where price reductions were happening, and how quickly buyers were responding, we made the decision together to price strategically from day one. And that home went under contract quickly. No drama, no price reduction, no why isn't anyone calling conversations. Just a strong launch, a clean contract, and a happy seller. That is what good data does. It gives you confidence. It gives you leverage. And it helps you make decisions based on facts, not fear, not pressure, and not somebody's random opinion from the internet. So that is your Tucson housing market update for April 2026. All the data, all the context, no fluff. Here's the big takeaway. The Tucson market is not crashing. It is not on fire. It's a smart person's market. And by smart, I mean informed, strategic, and prepared. This is not the kind of market where you wing it. Sellers need the right pricing strategy, the right preparation, and the right launch plan. Buyers need to know where they have leverage and where they absolutely do not. And everyone needs to stop making major real estate decisions based on national headlines that have very little to do with what is happening right here in Tucson. So here's what I'd love for you to do. First, drop a comment below and tell me where you are in the process. Are you thinking about buying? Are you thinking about selling? Are you thinking about investing? Just watching the market like it's your new favorite reality show? I read the comments and I really do take requests for future videos. Second, if you or someone you know is thinking about making a move in Tucson, Oro Valley, Marana, or the surrounding areas, reach out to me directly. We'll sit down, look at your specific situation, and build a strategy based on real data, not guesswork. And third, if you want this kind of update every month, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll keep bringing you the actual numbers, the local context, and the straight talk you need to make smart decisions about real estate. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, if you have questions, I'm just a call or text away. See you soon.